Okay, I suppose today's talk wraps up this series on Singaporean art, okay, which started in about, I think in March, right? March or April. Okay, and we're going to end off with the contemporary art scene, right, in Singapore. Okay, I don't know whether I can assume that, all of you know this term called contemporary, or this term called contemporary art, right? Do you? Because I think it's not really the place where, I need to go into detail about this, because this was covered in the talk I gave last year. And if you want to know more about contemporary art, you can actually go to the Ode to Art website on YouTube, and then, you can see a series of videos, right? Of the talks that I gave here, right? And one of them is on contemporary art, okay, where I try to unpack this term, okay? This can be a rather ambiguous or even difficult term called contemporary art, okay? Okay, but in short, I think contemporary art refers to what they call a kind of experimental or alternative art practices, okay, that go beyond, the conventional practices of painting, sculpture, drawing. All right, and contemporary art, emerged in the West, right? Let's say in the 1960s, right? Okay, so in short, that's really contemporary art. It's really, a kind of alternative art practices. Okay, and these alternative art practices includes, art forms like performance art, installation art, conceptual art, right? Okay, and today we have artists, mixing many media and materials together, right? Okay, so art is constantly evolving. Okay, so today we're just going to focus on the Singaporean contemporary art scene. Okay, and contemporary art, I suppose, emerged at different times in different places. Okay, as I mentioned, I suppose in the West you can push the beginnings of contemporary all the way to Marcel Duchamp, where he exhibited his notorious, urinal, right, which is entitled Fountain, right? But in Singapore, right, when do you all think, contemporary art sort of first emerged? Okay, we used to say, an artist doing something that really, try to question the prevailing attitudes towards art, okay, and how art was received at that time. Anyone knows? Who did something quite radical, right? Anyone sort of old enough to remember? Okay, right? Maybe not. Okay, maybe, as I said, this is still quite a new area for many people. Contemporary Singaporean art. Although we tend to think that it's kind of hip to talk about contemporary and all that, okay, but there's also the kind of academic discourse surrounding what contemporary art is, okay, and this so-called defining moment, whatever you call it, critical turn, contemporary turn, right, took place in 1972, okay, where this artist, okay, and this artist, Cheo Chai-hiang, is already in his 60s today, right, he submitted a work. I won't say he submitted a work, but he actually mailed. Okay, he sent a mail. Okay, and that mail, that envelope itself, consists or contains a set of instructions. Right? Okay, and he submitted this to the Modern Art Society, or for submission to the Modern Art Society's annual exhibition. Okay, and I think it was addressed to the president of the Modern Art Society, which at that time was Ho Ying. Okay, who was the most recent recipient of the Cultural Medallion Award, right? And that set of instructions, this was not really the first time that, it's done. This is really part of the strategy of what they call conceptual art, all right? An artist in America called, I can't remember his name now. Okay, but anyway, he also gave a set of instructions to some artists, okay, who just need to follow instructions to paint a work, all right? Okay, or to paint a few works. Okay, that's it. That's part of, as I said, the strategy of conceptual artists. Okay, so Cheo Chai-hiang submitted this with instructions, okay, to draw a series of lines, okay, and those series of lines would then, intersect both the wall, okay, and the floor. Okay, so it will just be like two rectangles, okay, adjoining the floor and the wall. And it's to be called Singapore River. Right, Singapore River. Okay, and Ho Ying, you know, I mean, again, some people criticize him for rejecting the work, okay, which I think is not too fair. Okay, he has his own reasons, you know, for doing that. Okay, and he rejected it. He says partly because of his lack of content, his lack of physical form and presence, and aesthetic appeal. Okay, because he said that if you want to do art, okay, you must also think of the viewer. Okay, so what will the viewer think of such a work? Okay, which is not, you know, well, to him it's not carefully thought through or, you know, carefully fabricated. Okay, so, you know, so it was rejected. Okay, and this became a kind of a cause célèbre for Cheo Chai-hiang, okay, in his advocacy of, you know, contemporary art, right? And it's really one of the most discussed episodes, okay, in contemporary art, okay? And I think he didn't get to realize this work until maybe 20 years later, okay, or so. Okay, in fact, you can, well, realize this work anywhere, you know. I mean, just follow the set of instructions that he gave. Okay, and I'll come to this quotation by Cheo Chai-hiang, right, a bit later. And this is the work. Cheo Chai-hiang, Singapore River. Okay, that's only one of the, you know, several manifestations of this work. Okay, it has been exhibited in different forms, in different places. Okay, but more or less is that it's a rectangular form. Okay, you know, and adjoining the wall and the floor. Okay, and why do they call it Singapore River? Okay, you realize that this was done in 1972, and at that time, you know, the Singapore River was perhaps the most popular subject for art. Okay, many painters would go there, you know, the Watercolor Society would go to Singapore River to paint. Okay, and they would just paint what they saw without thinking or without even knowing why they did it. Okay, so that was Cheo Chai-hiang's biggest, you know, point of contention. Okay, that these artists are not thinking, right? Okay, so this is really the first instance of, you know, what we can call conceptual art in Singapore. And it really marked, you know, the start of contemporary art, right, in Singapore. Okay, and this was recognized by the art historian called T.K. Sabapati. Okay, and he wrote later that, you know, this was a critical turn. Okay, because previously, you know, artists were doing abstract art or, you know, Nanyang style paintings. Okay, and this was really the first instance of, you know, contemporary work. We have heard of Vincent Liao. Okay, he was once what they call the enfant terrible of the Singapore art scene, right? You know, a very controversial figure. He was a key member of the Artist Village, and later on he started this collective called Plastic Kinetic Worms. Okay, which unfortunately, you know, has closed down because of lack of funding. Okay, but I think PKW, as it's known, you know, has contributed quite significantly as well, right, to the Singaporean art scene. Okay, churning out publications, a publication called Vehicle. Okay, but unfortunately, you know, it was forced to close. Okay, and in 1992, Vincent Liao did a performance in which he would wear this a suit. Okay, put on a Daddy Warbucks hat, a top hat, and then these shoes. Okay, all made up of fake, okay, American dollar notes. Okay, and then in this performance space in Hongbi Warehouse, right, he would hop around like a toad, like a frog, okay, with a stack of bills in his mouth. Okay, now let me show you that. Now this, okay, in performance art, after the performance is done, what happened? Okay, I mean, you can only perform once, you know, I mean, it's documented in photographs, and then you have what you call these relics. Okay, so what you have here are the relics of that performance, and these relics are collectible items. I mean, they are, you know, people collect them. Okay, museums and all that. Okay, collect them. Right, here you go. Okay, now as you know, have you seen that toad in Chinese culture? That toad with a coin in his mouth, the three-legged toad. Okay, and it's supposed to bring good luck, right? Yeah, correct, or good fortune. Okay, so that's what Vincent is trying to do. But here the whole performance is a critique of materialism, of consumption, of capitalism. Okay, and also, you know, of superstitious beliefs in the pursuit of wealth, right? So I think that was what he was trying to do here. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing right there, right? Okay, because I was not there in the right to see the performance. Okay, but I think you get the idea, right? And then just a year later, okay, in another, okay, anyway, this place called Hongbi Warehouse is quite an important space, right? And I think the Artist Village wanted this space to be like permanent housing, but again, it was marked for, redevelopment. Okay, so they never got to use that space. Okay, so a year later, he did this other performance called Coffee Talk. Okay, another iconic performance. And in the Coffee Talk, to cut a long story short, what he did in that is that during the course of the performance, he urinated and he drank his own urine. Okay, that may come as a shock to you. Okay, now why does he do that, or why did he do that? All right. Now, as you know, I mean, what he did was that he urinated and he drank. Okay, so it's a process of production and consumption. Okay, it's a kind of a critique of the art world. Okay, mainly, critiquing commercial art, where an artist will produce and then you'll be consumed by the collector. Okay, but here, by producing and consuming his own urine, okay, he's conflating both production and consumption, right? So it's a critique against, what he considered to be commercial art, right? But ironically, what happened is that as an inversion of that critique, he later on packaged his own urine, okay, and which can actually be bought, right? So if anyone wants to buy the urine, let me know, right? I can contact Vincent, and I'm not sure how much it costs. Okay, I think it's still available, right? Okay, the last time I know. Another very, artist whose work is very interesting, Robert Chow Ren Hui. Okay, Robert Chow, he's a photographer, but sometimes in his works, he will also show photographs together with objects and, documents as well. And Robert Chow is, again, quite an intelligent artist. I mean, he's someone who does a lot of research and someone who works with other people like zoologists, I believe, biologists, right? And he, like a few other artists that we've seen, he also wants to create a fictional world, a fictional situation. And that's what he has been doing with his work so far, right? He even created a fictional institution called Institute of Critical Zoologists, okay? And he said that people go into the website, to inquire about certain animals, right? To kind of pick his brains or, about certain animals. Okay, but he will tell them that, it's a fictional, kind of institution. And he did this work for the recent Singapore Biennale. Okay, it's called A Guide to Flora and Fauna of the World. Now, to you, right, this title itself would reminds you of the kind of classification, right, that we use for the natural world, the catalogue. Okay, a guide to the animals of the world and all that. Okay, and in Robert Chow's work, he's very much concerned with nature, and in particular the related issues of morality and ethics in nature. Okay, how, for example, human actions and intervention have, changed our relationship with nature. How we manipulate nature for our own, purposes. Okay, I was very much interested in that. So, if you, how many of you have seen this show? You have, right? Okay, it's very interesting. If you look closely, okay, some of the animals are like they are like mutated animals. Okay, he even have a remote control cockroach somewhere, right? And there you see rhinos with no horns. Okay, of course these are fictitious creatures, so he mixes fact and fiction here in his work, right? He wants to draw attention again to, how certain animals have evolved, okay, to survive, but again how human beings have manipulated these animals, okay, for their own scientific purposes and even for manipulation. Okay, you know, for example, those tattooed fishes and, you know, those brightly colored fishes, those were all, you know, kind of genetically, okay, manipulated by human beings. Okay, and in this work, he also wanted to question or test the principles of the way that we receive information and the way that we disseminate knowledge, right? Okay, and in fact, you can buy Robert Charles' work. Okay, what he has done is this. This is not fictitious, huh? It's true. You can buy his work. Okay, he has put together in a very nice, you know, kind of package. You know, 55 of the plates, together with scientific booklets and documents. Okay, right, and you can actually buy them, right? And okay, so these are limited edition works. Okay, so today you can see that, you know, you no longer have the kind of bohemian artist, you know, who wants no money from the government, you know, and who always struggling to find food and all that. Okay, you have artists who is savvy enough to know that, well, you know, or to recognize that you have to, you know, sometimes commercialize your work, right? But to do it tastefully as well, right? Okay, and probably to recoup some of the cost, okay, you know, of staging your show and all that. This is another very exciting artist, right? Very young artist, Choon Kai-Feng. In 2009, he exhibited this together with Michael Lee's work of the you know, Lee Kuan Yew using bottle caps. And he won the top prize, okay, from that particular show, the Singapore Art Exhibition. Okay, so this work actually won the top prize. Okay, I remember seeing this work. Okay, it was displayed like a diorama. Okay, a diorama is like a, you know, a kind of miniature model. Okay, where you see in museums, you display it on a glass case. Okay, so this is like, you can't enter this space. Okay, you can only see it from a glass window. Okay, but when you look in, you see that it's like an office space. There's no doubt about it. Okay, there's a laptop, there's some files, stationery, drawers, etc. Okay, but you'll notice something that it looks very sterile, very clean, very pure, the space itself, right? You'll notice also something, there's no human presence, okay? Right. But then you look at the objects carefully, okay? You'll see some stationery there, but then if you look at the stationery there, okay, interspersed among some of the objects like the stationery on the table, you see a knife. Right? So this work is more than what meets the eye. Okay, he has created a kind of a psychological space here, right? In which it's like a Hitchcock setting, I suppose. You know, that you don't quite know what has happened or what's going to happen next. Okay, what's the knife for? Where's that guy who's working here or that person? Right? Has he been pushed to the edge? And you know, okay, and so as Choon Kai-Feng himself said, this work speaks of forlornness. Okay, it could be the kind of the same old life that we lead every day. Okay, going back to the same office, corporate office, right? And as the artist says, it's about the kind of the aestheticization and the anesthetization of everyday life. Okay, right? And it's also about, I suppose, you know, the desire to transgress as well. Okay, hence, for example, the knife over there. Right? So if you look at Kai-Feng's work, he makes a lot of commentary as well about, you know, the way Singaporean society operates, right? The way we live our lives here as well. Oh, you don't have this? Sorry. I thought I just showed this last work. Okay, Vertical Submarine. Okay, now Vertical Submarine is a collective of 3 artists, and they make very tongue-in-cheek works, very witty works that mainly revolve around wordplay and text. Okay, now their works are not easy to, in a sense, interpret. Okay, but some of their works are quite interesting, like this one here called Flirting Point. Okay, I believe it was exhibited for about 10 months in front of Sam. Okay, but it was first commissioned by Zook okay, for one of their events, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So this work is a kind of a commentary, okay, a commentary on social, the social situation. Okay, maybe here is peculiar, maybe to Singapore society, right? How we flirt with certain things, you know, right? When we go to a museum, we pretend to see the artworks, but actually we are looking at other physical forms, something like that, right? But also I think it's also a commentary on Singaporean society itself, right? Where everything here is prescribed, is policed, is controlled, okay? Remember Ram Koolhaas quotation, right? Okay, so even flirting, okay, has to be, you know, yeah, right. There's a place and time to do it, right? But I don't know whether there were many takers, right, who actually flirt on this point, okay? But you know, so ironically and not surprisingly, you see that although the work has declared its intention for people to flirt, okay, I don't think, you know, it has achieved, right? You did, is it? Oh, sorry.
We say some parents complain.
Oh, really?
Because students were hanging under the...
Oh dear, really? Okay, I see, okay. Wow. I know that it was a very popular place for Shutterbug, so I don't know what those students were doing, right? Okay. Yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, but tongue-in-cheek work, to make us think of, you know, again, of the society in which we lived in, okay, and a very wry commentary on, I suppose, social situations as well, right? Okay, I've done. In fact, nowadays I am quite punctual.